one of the things is I'm not a poet. I'm not a performance artist. You're not going to see me wax up here like our last young lady who really rocked the whole spirit of poetry. But my point of view on it was that since it's a South Bronx love letter, I wrote a letter as if I'm reading it to someone else, a third party, giving them a little history about my experience as the Bronx, as a photographer and also as a visual artist. And so it goes, poems are best when recited and letters are meant to be read. I am neither a poet nor a performance artist, so I share my South Bronx love letter in the form of an actual letter, which I will read here for you tonight. What I am is a visual artist, a chronicler of my times, whose Latin image is a testimony that has been laid down on a bed a bed composed of silver salts, waiting to be harvested and recommitted to memory in the form of a photographic print, what I call a cultural identity reclamation. It all started with me passing a darkened room located in the Youth Recreation Center's basement at the tender age of 10. That was back in 1974, in case you're wondering. I didn't know it then, but that mysterious and magical dark room would consume my creative attention for the next 8 years as my mentor, Ernesto Lozano, took me under his wing and began teaching me about photography, how to create images, process film, and make prints. That big brothership would not only open up my imagination to my own community, but also places far beyond the boundaries that should have been my entire world. It would also begin the slow process of teaching me how to see instead of merely look. I was born on the Lower East Side, but my mother moved to the South Bronx before my first birthday. Melrose, Mott Haven, Morrisania, Longwood, Hunts Point, Port Morris. Some know it as the Boogie Down, the BX, the South Bronx. I just call it my home. As a young boy, I remember moving a lot. One day we'd move and we had hot water and heat, and the next it would all be cold and the lights in the hallway and stairs would be cut off. No rhyme or reason that I could fathom at that tender age, but the routine of moving was simple enough, even for a fifth grader. Once during one of those moves, we floated from one neighborhood to another just a little bit more uptown, which much acumen and foresight, although she only had a third grade education in Puerto Rico before she moved to New York City with my sister, my mother enrolled me in the Hoe Avenue Boys and Girls Club so that I could do something productive with all that extra energy other than break the few possessions she had. It is ironic that as a kid from the so-called poorest congressional district in the nation, I was introduced to one of the most expensive hobbies there is, photography. Fate is a trickster, but also wise, very much like my mother. Of course, this was a long time ago, before digital photography, before the internet, and before Instagram. Back then, the struggle was real, and the word real on this sheet is bold, italicized, and underlined. I'm talking about real. This art form introduced me to a whole new world, and to the extent that photographs can be a testament of recorded history, they are also the residual recollections of events I've personally witnessed, experienced, and by extension of my own life. Unlike now, where you can pop off like a cowboy in a TV Western who never runs out of bullets, back then we could only shoot 24, 36 frames, so every frame counted. And that's the first lesson I learned as I was taught to shoot film, to see what others could not, work the shot, tell a story in a single frame, and not to waste valuable film. I sometimes tease young ones with the hashtag, I have negatives older than you. It's true, look it up. But I do this not to degrade or belittle, but only to solidify the notion about this photo game being long, and that real artists are not short-sighted. That it's more than a branding to riches game, but also about the body of work, and more importantly, about what the work is about as well as what it represents. I'm proud that I contributed in some small way to what I call our family album. To be sure, there are vacant buildings and empty rubble-strewn lots in my photographs, but what you won't find in any of my images are poor people. Instead, what you'll find are people full of life, courage, dignity, even when they were down, who rose up from the ashes of neglect, economic opportunism, and political indifference, and whose clarion call, "Don't move, improve," was the hallmark of the day. And improve they did, against all odds. And they stayed and they carved out lives here. In these photos, if you would have been seeing them, you'll find mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, families, and children, always children, playing, smiling, sharing, clothed and and with full stomachs, and loving parents, looking content and not wanting. Did I mention there weren't any poor people in this neighborhood? Only victims of circumstance. It wasn't until I was given a few vouchers by the Boys Club for a few courses at School of Visual Arts that someone asked me for the first time how it felt to be poor and from the Bronx. "I don't know," I replied, is the only truthful I can provide. I didn't know what they wanted to hear, but I could tell it wasn't the answer they expected. My bad. Which begs the questions, why are there all these poor people with so much money suddenly trying to come to the South Bronx? And where the hell is this pet piano district I keep hearing about? Last October, I was compelled to go back and look through my archives and see if I could find any pianos in any of the images I had taken over the last 35 years. I thought that perhaps I'd find a few somewhere in the background in a place here or there. Perhaps right behind Don Pedro on the park bench. Nope, not there. Or just outside of Rosita's corner bodega. If I had gone to church, I may have had found a piano there, but that's another story. After a year of scanning my negatives, I'm yet to find a single piano anywhere. All that work for nothing. Coño. I was there through the fires, and I can still recall those days whenever I smell burning wood. Barbecues and mesquite are a traumatic bitch for sure. I was there during the blackout of '77. Yeah, the motherfucking blackout. When the lights went out right in the middle of a crazy game we were playing called Run, Catch, and Kill. I was it, and on the run. So thank goodness for small favors. I was there when crack cut through our communities like a chainsaw through sweet flan. And I saw so many of my beautiful friends get caught up in the life for a hit or lose their lives altogether playing a losing game. Fortunately for me, film developer and printing paper was too expensive, so there wasn't any money left over for this magical rock. Besides, I was lucky that I always had the back of the Boys Club, my mentors, and my mother, who kept an eye on me all the time. Hashtag La Chancleta. You know what I'm talking about, right? But we were also lucky because we had the parks and playgrounds where we could play on broken swings and rusted monkey bars. And you know where we had just come from when you saw the chocolate oxidation on our hands. We also had the Dover and Art Theater where we could watch 3 feature film kung fu films on Sunday for $2. Oh snap, then came Jason, Michael Myers, and Freddy Krueger. And don't forget Lee jeans, Pumas, shell-top Adidas, La Tigre shirts, Kango hats, and Gazelle glasses, which meant hip-hop, graffiti, and breakdancing. Mama said, knock you out. After a while, we got older and started going in different directions as we started families of our own, moved away, or just passed on. Soon we only got together during the funeral of one of our buddies or one of the homegirls. And when that reality set in, it hurt to the core. So we decided to have an annual old timers reunion in front of the Boys and Girls Club, where we spent so much time in our youth. So much so that we called it the magnet, because no matter where we were or what we were doing, we'd always end up in front of its doors. And it seems like we still do. Every last Saturday in June now goes the tradition. In 2017, it will be the 20th anniversary of our gathering. It's when we get to take the pulse of our crew and catch up on what's been happening the last year. Especially happy when it's the only time we've seen each other during the year because, if we had seen each other any other time, it would have meant the funeral. Not everyone made it across the decades to join us in this annual reuniting ritual, but I still remember them fondly. Macho, Pedro, Gladys, Margie, and Billy. Too many to mention here, really. But there was this one Colombian kid who came into the crew late in the game, but was a decent, shy, and polite kid, not like the rest of us. A small fish in a pond of Puerto Rican and black fish. With time, we all grew to like him and became part of the inner circle because he wasn't from the streets. Although he wasn't from the streets, he had a big heart and wasn't a punk. We just called him Foreigner. I wish I could remember his real name, but that's the thing with nicknames, isn't it? Foreigner eventually joined the military, saved up money, and started a one-man car service when he got back home. A slamming OJ with tinted windows 360 degrees. One day, a guy jumped out of his car to beat paying the fare. Foreigner chased him, was killed, stabbed right in the heart. Like I said, he wasn't a punk. Damn, I wish I could remember his real name. I'm happy to say that the majority of my peeps from my youth are doing well. Today, I continue to train my eyes as an artist. The lessons never end. Always more to see. And although I have also ventured and trained my lens on Spanish Harlem and the Lower East Side over the years, the South Bronx continues to be my prime muse. She's elegant, she's smart, she's sassy, colorful, she speaks a dozen languages, and she could dance. She can fucking really dance. And she's street smart and nobody's fool. More importantly, she's my long-lasting love. We started dating when I first became exposed to my art form, and we were married when I started to see instead of just look. And hopefully we'll grow old together, and if I'm lucky, I will die in her arms. Looking through my photographic archives today, I can safely claim that no Bronxites were hurt, harmed in the making of my art. Can you say the same? Can you claim the same? And if so, can we build together? I'll leave you with this one final question. Where exactly is this piano district I keep hearing again? But I'm not quite sure. I really don't know. All I know is you can't get here, you can't get there from here, and you never will. BX, gracias.